Good evening, everyone. I am John Mason, better known as Dr. M, the Purpose Disruptor, and welcome back to Mason Mondays. We've missed you. Needless to say, during our shift challenge, it was a very difficult thing to keep both. So we just went ahead and shifted for 21 days, and now we're back. I am just so ridiculously happy to do a couple of things. Number one, to remind you, Father's Day is coming up very quickly. And there are a couple of things that you may want to secure for that beautiful man in your life. The Shift to Into Purpose journal is still available at the discounted price of $18. All you have to do is go on out to purposerefinedbyfire.com. All the information is there for you, as well as our affirmation deck, the beautiful uh, things that we have, so that every morning and every evening you can have a affirmation to lead you and an affirmation to go ahead and settle your mind at the end of a day. Those things are available and would make great Father's Day presents. Because of the Shift into Purpose 21 Day Challenge, we didn't get a chance to prep for June, which is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And just as a reminder, men cry, men break down, men get anxiety, men feel insecure, men get abused, men have emotions, men have mental illnesses. It's not unmanly to struggle. And it's time to support men and encourage men, not to belittle or silence men, because men struggle as well. This paid political announcement has been brought to you by every mental health professional in the CSRA. Why is that important? Here's why that's important. Men also don't share their feelings. They rarely talk about what's really eating them, what's really bothering them. And that's something that we've got to change. Our guest tonight is going to help us with that. It is my pleasure to sort of play this little clip for you.
It's a lot and deny it. Just keep on grinding. Just keep on.
Well, that's not good. Let's try that again.
Voices in my head like, why do you keep ignoring me? A man's mental health should be treated as priority. We want to say fam in the bed at night, but you can't protect nothing if your head ain't right. Brothers suffering. Suicide rates the highest. Your peers depressed. The signs flight right by us. Respect to my queens. I don't mean to be biased. I just know we feel these ways a lot and deny it. Just keep on grinding. Just keep on.
My guest tonight is Dr. Ashaad Hipps. He is the founder and CEO of Gears of Change. He is also a licensed social worker and focuses specifically on dealing with men. And there is no person I would rather have on this program to talk about men's mental health and the mind of a man than Dr. Hipps. So go ahead and give up that wonderful welcome to Dr. Ashaad Hipps. Welcome to Mason Mondays. We so appreciate you being here, kind sir.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for that great introduction.
Hey, it's the least I can do. Now, needless to say, there are a couple of things that I've got to start off with. Why is it important that June as Men's Mental Health Awareness Month? What should we be looking at? What should we be focusing on?
Okay. That's a really good question. That's part of the reason why I wanted to start the series that you just played a clip from, the Dear Men series, is because this month is such a month where we're supposed to spread awareness and really get the word out and really encourage more men to open up and discuss the challenges that they may be facing with their mental health. But it just feels like it's not enough to just do it for 1 month, right? And so last year, I did the workshop that you attended. So thank you so much for attending that.
My
But
pleasure.
I just felt like that wasn't enough, right? And so I wanted to start that Dear Men series to be something that was sort of daily that would keep that awareness up and not allow men to forget, and also to kind of focus on certain things that I've noticed that men may struggle with or may not even be aware that they struggle with in the counseling sessions.
So let's backtrack. Women are much more apt to seek help, to talk to someone, to have a counselor, whereas men self medicate often and frequently. I'm not going to say that one is better than the other, but I definitely believe that one is more productive than the other. So the question becomes, what do women know and why are they practicing this at a much greater number and literally diving in than men?
I think it all starts off, from a young age, whereas women are more encouraged to be to express their emotions and to share, whereas young boys are not encouraged to do the same. They often hear a lot, like "don't cry," "man up," "boys don't cry," whereas girls are more encouraged to do those things as in sort of preparation to be mothers, whereas men are more prepared to be, somebody who goes out and works and brings home the bacon, or so to speak, and it's just not really frowned upon. And if a young boy in elementary school starts to be a little bit more sensitive and show a little bit more emotion, those are typically the ones who get bullied and picked on and called names, and then that just, you know they start to just internalize it and keep it inside because it's not something that they can do. And then at school, you can't share your emotions, and then at home, you can't share your emotions. So then you just grow up like, okay, well, it's not important for me to talk about how I feel. So let me just not do that. And then it becomes to a point where it does lead to some of the things where you were saying, like, self-medicating, because the emotions and how to deal with certain things is not learned. And so those things are readily accessible. And so men move towards that. And then, the amount of the usage of substances tends to increase, because once you're not on that substance, all of those feelings, all of those things that are not discussed tends to come rushing back to you. So then you need more of said substance to now keep suppressing the things, all while not recognizing that you're continuously building on the things that you're not addressing, because just because you don't address them doesn't mean that they're going to go away.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster. You internalize what you're dealing with, you lose your voice and you lose your self-esteem, you lose your self-confidence, you become almost a shell of yourself. And in this whole process, you grow older, and my guess would be more rigid because life doesn't seem to have ever given you anything that is positive or worthwhile. So, mm, yeah, I'm gonna have to do this a little bit differently because I don't want the listeners to give up hope. What can we do to open the door if a man literally has a deadbolt and chain from the inside.
Okay.
Because obviously, our normal routine of knocking on the door doesn't seem to be working very well because they may answer it, they may not. So, suggestions on what we can do.
Yeah. So because it's a process, right? It's a process for every person, and every person is different. So it might take a little bit more, but something that we can do is have those constant reminders. Try to be a positive support person for the men that are in your lives, to the listeners. And then if you are a man, of course, seek those people. Find one person that you can talk to. And I always like to, I always say in the sessions and things that I do, like, it doesn't matter the magnitude of the thing that you share, but it's good to practice sharing something, right? And that that something can then take something off of your plate, so you're not always carrying around something full. It doesn't have to be, you know, the most deepest, darkest secret that you hold, but it can be something small. And then for those who are holding space, just be open minded, listen. It's really important that you listen, because a lot of times men don't feel heard, and they don't continue to express feelings when they don't feel like they can do so. So I wouldn't say, like, tell them, okay, hey, I'm here for you, and then once they start talking, then you kind of switch the situation, or switch the conversation back to you or to something else. To really hold that space is to actually hear them out, and help them talk through some things, but really just encouraging them to speak to you, and allowing them to share that thing, no matter how small. And also just paying attention to the signs, right? You're around these men, and men, you're around yourself. So really pay attention to the signs. If you notice yourself, feeling a little bit down, feeling a little bit tired, you don't want to, go to work, you don't want to talk, you don't want to socialize, hang out with friends, or do anything like that. Just really recognize that, and seek those opportunities to talk. You don't just having a conversation with a friend is better than not talking to anybody at all.
Now, you started this by saying that men often give up their voice because they don't want to be ridiculed and they don't want to be seen as having problems. They're also trained to not show emotion, to not seek anybody's assistance with whatever they're going through. And you see this not only with mental health, but you also see this with physical health. Men are horrible about going to the doctors, and men are horrible about having symptoms that they just carry on as if pain is normal. Because again, they were taught from such a young age. So I'm going to go into one of your areas of specialization, which is dealing with adolescents and younger young men. How do you begin to relate to them in the midst of this training process where what they're being trained to do is simply negative behavior and also counter to their growth? How do you speak to a young man and basically show him that not crying is only going to lead to things that they will be seen as not moving forward when the folks that they trust in their lives are saying this is the way to go?
Yeah. So I've actually had have that conversation quite a few times in sessions where they'll come in and they're like something traumatic has happened in their lives, and they don't feel like they can cry or express that emotion. And we have that conversation that it actually takes more strength to cry and show emotion than it does for a person to not show that emotion. And when I say that, they always just get a straight face and look at me, and they're like, "Well, that's not true." And then we have our little fun conversation back and forth, like, "Yes, it is true, right?" And then they're like, "No, it's not. Can you Google it?" And so I Google it, right, and then I show them the result. And it's like when they look at the Google, it actually tells them it does take an individual more strength to show those emotions than it does for them not. And then, of course, if they see it on Google, then it must be true, right? Because
Oh
that's
goodness.
the answer from Google. So then, once we kind of get that out of the way, laughing and joking about it and stuff, then we really, have the opportunity to talk about like, their voice, right? And it gives them an opportunity to sort of develop their voice and just encourage them to speak up on little small things, right? And then once we get them comfortable speaking up on just really tiny things, like for example, if they're having something for dinner or whatever, like I'll just encourage them, okay, did you like that thing that you had for dinner? If you didn't like that thing, I want to encourage you to tell your parent, how you felt about it, right? And then they do it, and then they come back and they're all excited. Oh yeah, I was able to do that, right? Okay, cool. Now that you've done that, now let's talk about some feelings, right? Let's be able to name them, right? Easiest feeling for them to name. Let's name something that makes you happy, right? Know all the things that make them happy: candy, video games, ice cream, all the fun stuff that they like to do, right? So that's a really easy thing to talk about. Then let's talk about. Then we start to talk about a thing that makes them sad. Just name one thing, and then we're good. Just let me know the one thing that makes you sad, then we're good. Now, for your homework, you go home, you practice. When something makes you happy, I want you to let your parent know about it. If it makes you happy, you let them know about it, and you actually use the word, "Hey, this makes me happy." Then when they come back, why did it make you happy? Let's talk about that.
Hmm.
Um, and then they go back, and now we just continue to add to the vocabulary. And as we continue to move forward, then we come back to the sad thing. Okay, let's talk about the sad thing. All right, why does this thing make you sad? Let's talk about it a little bit. All right, cool. Because emotions for them are a little bit difficult, and because it's uncomfortable, we often add a little bit of humor to it. So we might be jumping around, playing a game or whatever, right? And just not really pulling, naturally flowing them into the state of being able to talk about it. And then sometimes it might even be easier to speak about a fear, right? You're afraid of spiders. Why are you afraid of spiders? You don't like the dark. Why are you afraid of the dark? It might be easier for us to move from happy to that than it is to move to the sad. But slowly building those vocabulary, slowly encouraging them to find their voice. And once we start, it just takes off, and then it never stops. So parents come in, hey, they're not talking. And then by the time we get to session 6, they're talking. They're comfortable and they're confident with that. And then also, I just encourage the parents to continue nurturing those things, right? To continue to ask, to continue to check in. How are you feeling today? How was school, right? Don't just accept, it was good, it was bad, right? Encourage more elaboration on what was going on. Why was your day good, right? Ask those really good follow-up questions to really enhance that communication and get them comfortable expressing the things that went on. And then the older they get, the easier it'll be for them to express those emotions if they know that you are a safe space for them to come and speak.
Dr. Hibbs, I hate to do this to you, but 6 sessions
Yeah.
with the stigma that's specifically in the Black and brown communities, 1 session would be a miracle to some because they see anything mental health related as my child is crazy. My husband is crazy. My uncle is crazy. My daddy is crazy. And when you put that label upon folks, what they're not going to do is seek help because they don't want to validate what people have already said about them. They got medicine for that because we can't necessarily take that chance of wearing a label, even though it may fit, even though we're dealing with grief, anxiety, a post traumatic stress disorder. Even though we may be dealing with any of those things, we would much rather suffer in silence than push against the stigma that says this is not normal and then have our lives resolved. And the way that you just explained that just brings me such happiness because once there is a relationship and once there's a comfort level, then absolutely you get to the point where you're on the other side of this hard exterior and you have somebody who actually is talking to you about the things that matter to them. But we both know that the older someone gets, the harder that exterior and the larger that exterior, and the more time that it takes to get to that point where they might actually even accept what you're saying as true, that they've got an issue. So, complicated intro to ask you to talk about two things. Number one, the stigma facing the Black and brown community, specifically men. And secondly, how we can go about saying to these men, listen, mental health is normal. And what I need you to do is I need you to look at this in a completely different way. Because right now, I don't think that there are enough voices who are saying those things.
Yeah. That stigma is a lot on the community, and it definitely does impact a lot of men, and they would much rather suffer than speak up. And it's really doing us a disservice, and it's keeping us divided because of the beliefs that mental health is not for us. And we should not seek that. I'm okay. I'm good. I will just go over here, or I'll just power through it because I'm strong. Strong Black men don't have to go through mental health. We don't struggle with that. But it's really false, right? And so we do need more people speaking up about it and encouraging them and letting them know that it is okay. And I think that's why it's so important to have visibility of Black male clinicians within the community, to encourage them to seek that. Because so many times I've had a Black male come in and say, I'm so glad you're Black. You have the opportunity. You can relate to me. Like I'm glad, that I came here and you're a Black male. That makes a world of difference, right? And even if that individual doesn't necessarily continue with treatment, the fact that they did come in and the fact that they did, start the conversation, right? That's progress. compared to where they were before. And I think that that visibility just needs to come up in the community, and other things, you know, are often so focused on that mental health gets overlapped. Like we take a look at sports. Like sports are so huge in the community, right? We'll rather go, watch a playoff game or talk about football or any other sport than we would mental health. But even those athletes do struggle with mental health. And so I think if we can just continue to increase the visibility, and just encourage and continue spreading the positivity that relates to it, not just the negative things that can come from not addressing the issues, but really speaking to how individuals can thrive and have a better life and have better relationships with their families, and things of that nature. I think that really can help to reduce that stigma a little bit, and that's also something that I hope to wish to do, with that Dear Men series that I'm continuing.
One last question, then we're going to actually switch to gears of change. Um, you said that they should be looking for a male clinician. I have been told that they would probably stand a better chance of finding a unicorn than finding a male clinician. Um, you are a rare breed, I have been told.
Yeah.
And as such, even if they were available, had the insurance resources to set sessions, how do they go about finding a male clinician, and B, a male clinician that is accepting new patients?
That's a really good question, and you are absolutely right. There are a limited amount. Um, I don't know the websites off the top of my head, but I can get those to you because they actually do have a directory that's specifically for Black men, uh,
Excellent.
and I can get that to you, so you'll have that, and it definitely does do that. But I also think, like you mentioned, the resources component of it. I just saw a video the other day that really brought something to my attention that I didn't even really think about. Like, while Black men may have the resources, they may have the insurance, then that insurance may be accepted by a counselor or clinician. They might not know how to go about that process,
Hmm.
right? And so that's something else that we can do, is to educate them on how to utilize that insurance to help them locate a male clinician that is, or even a female clinician if they decide, But I think that's something that we often don't really think about. We might just say, hey, seek mental health support, but I don't think we really always say how to go about doing that. And I think that's something that we can do as well to help reduce some of those barriers, right? The less barriers that they face in accessing these services can really help, them start to seek more services.
Absolutely. Because if they have barriers, they may not necessarily persevere into getting the help. So you're absolutely right. The fewer the barriers, the more productive that search may be. Thank you. And I'll look forward to receiving that from you. So with the time that we have left, talk to us about Gears of Change. Where did it come from? I know that this is your baby. I know that you have been thinking about this for quite some time. So, talk to us about that. What is it? How can folks come and become a part of that? And what do you hope to gain from it?
Okay, yeah. So gifts of change is something that I have been thinking about doing for quite a while, and it started off as just a little small idea of me being able to provide services for men and young boys, and to just have it be a lot more accessible. And so I wanted to do something that was a little bit more virtual, so that it was had the flexibility, so that people didn't have to come to an office, because a little bit there's a stigma around going in and sitting in a mental health office, right? And so I wanted it to be something that people can access from from their homes, without having to, get up, get dressed, and go out, and then be seen walking into an office that says counseling on the outside, right? You're able to get those services from in the comfort of your home. Currently, I'm in the process of getting it ready to start accepting new patients. Um, but if that is something that you are not sure about that you want to do at this time, I do also offer certain mental health workshops that I do frequently on many of the topics that I work in session with. And those are anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half workshops that you can attend. I do advertise those on my LinkedIn page, the Instagram page, as well as uh, TikTok and Facebook. My website is thegearsofchange.com. That's the website.
Cool. Very cool. Last but not least, and we're getting better at this. I'm trying to sort of pare this down to about a half an hour just to make sure that we hit it, get in, get out. Two questions. Number one, will you come back again? Because there's a lot more that I would love to cover with you.
Oh, yeah, I'll be happy to come back.
Excellent. Last, I always ask for a call to action for the folks who are watching. You've got the floor. Talk to us about what you would call these folks to do as it relates to mental health, specifically for men and the women who love them.
Okay. For men, I want to encourage you to recognize the signs and symptoms of when you're not feeling okay, and when you're not feeling your best. And I also want you to know that it's okay to not be okay. And I want you to seek support from someone you love. I'm not even going to send you to a mental health counselor at this time. I just want you to talk to somebody. So somebody that you feel comfortable with, a friend, a cousin, aunt, or uncle, whoever. I want you to reach out to them and talk to them. Even a barber. You got a barber? Talk to them, right? And then for the women, for the men in your lives, just try to be a safe space for them to land, right? Whenever you need things and you have concerns, they're there. So just recognize the things that are going on. If you notice that there's somebody that wakes up sharp 5:45 every morning, and all of a sudden they're waking up at 6:05, right? Reach out, ask them, check in, see what's going on. When you ask them how's their day going, really ask, really listen, really attend to the things that they're saying to you. And you may be able to pick up that they're not okay. And so then you can extend the invitation again to have the conversation. Let's talk about it, right? I notice, that you said whatever XYZ wasn't going right for you today. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how that made you feel, right? Little things like that can make a world of difference, right? They might not say it, but it makes a difference.
Wonderful. Dr. Hipps, I appreciate you as always. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. You've given so much good information that, as I said, I can't thank you enough. And because you have said that you will be back, we will absolutely schedule you again so that we can go ahead and get into some other things, such as what do you do without insurance, such as how can the communities help assist in the mental health arena, such as what's the role of the church as it relates to mental health. So I've got some more stuff for you, but we're going to do it the next time. For everybody else, we will be back next Monday, same time. And our new time is 7 o'clock. Folks were complaining because 9 o'clock they were asleep. So 7 o'clock, we're going to be back on. And as I said, we're going to hit it. We're going to talk about it, and then we're going to let you go for the rest of your day. So, Dr. Hipps, thank you again. I appreciate you greatly. For everybody else, we'll see you next Monday.
We all want to be happy, but the majority of us have no idea what to do. See, the Japanese have a concept called ikigai, which roughly translates into a reason for being. You need to have a purpose for being here. But this is easier said than done because there are 4 components that you need to check off in order to achieve ikigai. Now, the interesting thing about this Japanese formula is that you can tell where you are in life and what you need to work on by looking at the components you have so far. If all you have is something that you love and are good at, then you have what's called a passion. On the other hand, if you have something that you love and you can see how the world needs it, then you have what's called a mission. Now, if you're someone who has something you get paid well for and are good at, then you have what most people in the world have, which is a profession. And finally, if you get paid well and it's something that you know can help the world, then you have what's called a vocation. You need to be spending your time doing something that you love, that you can get better at, that pays well, and that the world needs. Without all 4, you will always feel like you're missing something inside of you.
Follow us for more helpful tips.